Welcome to the What You Don't Know podcast, brought to you by the Know Like Trust Report, which is a simple, actionable survey that asks the most important questions. My name's Teresa Nichols, and if you are watching the podcast, you get 20% off your first Know Like Trust survey with the discount code, all caps, WYDK 2025. And so I'm Teresa Nichols, and today I have with me Lori Kirstein, and I absolutely love her LinkedIn description. So Lori Kirstein is a growth activist. She is a public speaker and coach, inciting women to express and lead lives and businesses beyond social limitations, inside and out. And I just was so excited to talk to you today, Lori, about everything that you're doing right now to help the watchers, help everyone watching get to know you a little bit better. So tell us one thing that would help us get to know you and like you and trust you.
I guess I can't go with I know how to juggle.
I love that. I love
To get to know me, I think what you should know about me is that I'm this interesting combination of somebody who, when people get around me, they tend to open, they tend to get more courageous, to feel like they can take a little bit more of a risk to be themselves, which is such a lovely thing to be able to sort of shepherd into being. And I'm the kind of person when I coach women leaders, I'm very careful to make sure I'm shepherding them, into their strength.
it.
And which is nice because, right? Because how many times have we had teachers who go, I want you to become a carbon copy of me? And like, that doesn't help anybody. How does that help? To know me, let's see. I've been through a whole lot of stuff in my life. I have put myself through the ringer I've come through a lot of clinical depression. I healed myself of that. I went through homelessness even, and came out of that. And I'm here to let people know that there are ways, and they're not the masculine ways of like, there are ways to come out of thinking that we have to do things the way everybody else has done them, that we have to be hard on ourselves. Because I think I've had about 1,200 PhDs in being hard on myself, and I've burned them. I've burned them. Yeah, it doesn't help. Yeah, doesn't help.
And what about the last one, trust?
Well, I think you can trust me because really of what I just said. I think it's a
Yeah.
thing to really reveal things about yourself. And it may sound like, oh, that's easy. It wasn't always, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, to trust somebody is something that you actually have to build. You can't just go, oh, I see you, I hear you, therefore I trust you. Or at least we
Really?
shouldn't.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
And we women do tend to do that. We have taken in so much of the masculine way of doing things that we've even let go of the feminine thing of process and letting ourselves unfold and
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah.
What's cool about that is when you don't force it, trust is much more likely to happen. I mean, you could say, "Oh, just trust me." And it's like, "Oh, okay." But if you say, "I get it if you don't trust me. I understand that." Then people I think are going to be more likely to trust you quicker when you say, "Hey, I get it. I understand it. It takes some time." Yeah. So that's really cool. I
Well,
like
I
that.
think that's good. I think it's also really good to know what will gain trust. In other words, from the other side, like I know that what gains trust for me as a teacher, speaker, coach, presenter is being very open and being very honest about who I am. And people can feel when that's real and when it's nonsense, when it's just something that's put out there to sell.
Ah,
But on the other side, also, it's very important to know what do I need to know about this person in order to trust them. But it's also not an on and off switch, right? It's like I'm going to trust them this much if I get this kind of stuff. I'm going to trust them this much if I get some more of this extra, and I'm going to really trust them when I have these experiences with them where they don't fail me. And they
Hmm.
repeatedly don't fail me or lie to me.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. With my clients, I've noticed, and one thing that I try really hard to do is in the beginning of the relationship, make
Hmm.
sure that I am showing up on time, that I am answering all their phone calls, that I'm there and available. And
Yeah.
then if I need to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it, it's not a big deal because they know they can trust me. They know that I'll be there. But in the beginning, I show up. I'm just like, I got to be there. I can't cancel. And I've noticed that with people though, that when I've worked with people and they don't show up those first couple of times, it drops off. And I'm just like, we
Yep.
never even built the relationship because you kept saying you had something else to do and you couldn't be there. So, yeah, so
And really not just in the beginning, of course, but throughout. And then when you do have it, you have to adjust and they have to adjust. You can make room for each other because you know the playing field.
it's cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk more about your intro line and coaching women, and you particularly said leaders, women
Yes.
leaders. So,
Yeah.
how did you start doing that? And give us a little bit of background on that and what you do for your clients.
I got started a number of years ago working with performers, actually, and my focus is to help women stop holding ourselves back. We're all in this ideational jail cell, but the doors are open. The jail cell doors are open. And what it requires is our courage and our being encouraged and helped to step over those social programmings that we've had forever from birth on. And the reason I'm focused on leaders, on women leaders, is that we are actually in an evolutionary period. We're in a human evolutionary period. And what's been missing, what's been making the system that we live in, whether we're talking social, political, interpersonal, corporate, what's been missing is the feminine. Empathy has been shamed, emotion shamed, intuition shamed. And when you are out of balance like that, because we're all made of the masculine and feminine, when we are imbalanced in that way, it can't last. It can't last.
What?
And that's what we're seeing now in the country and in the world. That's what we're seeing. So women leaders, women who really have a vision for not just starting another blue pen company, but really helping other women to grow, to expand, to say, I'm not going to be held back by this anymore, and I'm going to make myself figure out and learn how to be brave and how to be kind to myself. That's a masculine feminine balance that is really important because bravery can look like I have to push myself really hard and then you burn out. And I'm like the queen of that. I've done that. I've been there, done that. And when I started learning to be kind to myself, was not only when I started to enjoy what I was doing, but also I just felt like myself for the first time.
Wow.
And
That's all.
magic things started to happen.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Actually did something like that for myself really recently. I was in a group for two
yeah,
years
yep,
and spent over $2,000. Like if I added up even just the gas money to get to this thing and
yeah,
everything else I did and all of the one-to-one meetings, and everything that I did, it would be thousands of dollars and
right.
got back very little, did not see a good return on investment. And so I
Right.
decided I wasn't going to rejoin. But oddly, there was another group that I was reminded of, and I said, I think I'm going to join this other group. And let me
Okay.
tell you, I've only been to 2 meetings, and
Mm,
I have met people who make so much more sense for me. Just so much more sense. People that would never have walked into the other group. I am
right.
meeting, people that can change my path, and it's been amazing. And I mean, I realized it yesterday sitting there. I just thought, even if this doesn't work out, at least I am meeting people who I can ask certain questions and say, hey, do you want my services? But that wasn't even possible. And I sat there for 2 years and it wasn't even possible. So,
Interesting, isn't it, how long it takes us to get to that internal place where we say, it's really important, it's really effective when I start listening to myself
mhm,
instead of doubting, well, maybe if I stay longer, maybe if I give this abusive situation a little more time or
right.
something. No?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome. And
yeah.
and so do you have any examples of some feedback that you've given to your clients, to these women, that has helped them on their path and to break out of those molds?
Yeah, well, first of all, I advise every woman I ever meet practically to watch a movie that broke me out of the feeling that all of my holdbacks were my fault, were
Amen.
my issues,
Amen.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And I spent so long, and I'll tell you the movie in a second, but
Yeah.
I spent so long trying to heal my issues so that I could be braver and go out there and speak up. And it wasn't my issues. The movie is called Killing Us Softly 4, the number 4.
Okay.
All right. It's a 45-minute documentary. It is really fun as well as completely eye-opening
Okay.
about how programmed we are by a system, and especially by a Madison Avenue system,
Mm-hmm.
that tells us who we're supposed to be, what normalcy is, that we women are supposed to be, um, okay, how do I put this politely? Attractive enough to go to bed with, um, effable, let's say,
Sure.
that, right, that we should be, thin enough, young enough, white enough, sweet enough, um, you know, don't stand up for yourself because, oh gosh, then you're just too masculine, pushy, bitchy, whatever it
Mhm.
is, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
this movie really, this woman named Jean Kilbourne put all these images together over the years, and she started making these movies and takes them to, or used to take them to colleges and show them to women and men in their 20s and open their eyes.
Wow. When
So
I
first of all, watch
was
the movie.
I will. That sounds great. Yeah. When I
Yeah.
was right out of college, I worked for Sports Plus. Do you know where Sports Plus is?
I do not.
It was a huge sports complex. Now it has a different owner. It's not Sports Plus anymore, which I'm not surprised because they basically ran it to the ground and somebody had to buy it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
of course, I was right out of my degree and I was excited. It was my
right.
first job after I graduated from my master's program. And
Yes.
I, the president asked me to sleep with him.
What?
Yeah, it was like maybe 2 or 3 months into the job. One thing I had done of my own fruition, when I walked in, there was a big, huge cracked window. Huge cracked window. I mean, it was huge cracked window. It wasn't like a teeny tiny thing. It was, and
Right.
like right there for everybody to see as they walked in. And so I got a contractor to come over and give us an estimate on how much it was going to cost to replace this window.
Yeah.
I was like, this is unsafe. And this is the face of our business, of our organization. And people are coming in, influential people are coming in. We need to have this window fixed. Well, he saw the estimate and he said to me, we're not fixing that window. So I knew he was running it into the ground. I knew he wasn't
Oh,
making good decisions as the president of the company. And I mean, I'm like, here I am like, how do these people get in leadership roles? How is it that
wow.
I can't be a leader? And this guy got into this leadership role. He probably makes six figures. And then, like a couple days later, he basically said, "Hey, I have needs." Well, I said no. The next day, I thought it was over. He was like, "Hey, I'm giving you one more chance." Yeah, yeah. And I said no. And I don't know if it was that same day or maybe the next day that one of the other women that worked there brought me a box and said, "You're gone. Get out." And I really don't know if maybe he did it to make me want to quit. Maybe he would have never even done it. Maybe it was just like, "Oh, I know what I can do to make her uncomfortable, and then she'll leave," and he wouldn't be intimidated by me trying to make the place better, and I have no idea what was going through his head, or if he actually wanted to have sex with me. I have no idea. But it has impacted the rest of my career. And all of these people who make these stupid choices have impacted my career. My whole career has been impacted by that guy, and then the next guy that said something crazy, and then the next guy that said something crazy. And I'm like, you guys don't get it that you say these stupid things that impact somebody for the rest of their lives. They do. So
Let's talk about that. I mean, I'd like to hear, like, has it impacted your self-esteem? What has it impacted for you?
well, perfect example. So of course that job, I was only there for a couple of months. And when somebody said, "Oh, why are you leaving that job?" What was I supposed to say? And I didn't get other jobs because it looked like I wasn't employable. And then the best way to get a job back then after 9/11 was staffing companies. So
Hmm.
I started going to all these staffing companies and getting these temporary jobs. And had I just been able to keep that job, think about how my life would be different. Had he just said, "Yeah, sure, fix the broken window. That's a great idea." Think about how my life would be different. I mean, I may have been at that company for 10 years. It was a great job. I love fitness. I love entertainment. It would have worked really well for me. Maybe I would have ended up being the president of that company had I kept that job. But because I didn't, I looked like I couldn't keep a job. And then my next place, I worked, these temporary jobs. And then the next one was Degussa Flavors. It got sold, and they said, "Oh, you're a temp. You're going to be the first to go." So all these jobs on my resume started making me look like I wasn't employable. And then it got harder and harder and harder to get a job. Yeah.
So this is such a great example of
Yeah.
how we can get hijacked by the system.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so then we think, well, how can I fight against it? It's rigged against me, and that's where the internal stuff comes in. That's where we have to learn to really honor what we've done, because I've had the same journey, but not with that particular issue, but with the issue of me having learned how to be very strong and assertive, not aggressive, but assertive, and looking at things in any position that I'm put in, looking at it from a management perspective, so that when somebody says to me, as an example, "Do this Excel spreadsheet," I'm going to go, "No problem. I can get that done for you beautifully in record time, design the hell out of it. It's going to be great. I just have a question. How is this work going to impact that woman over there doing her work?" And so I would catch hell all the time. I would just catch hell all the time for being a strong, self-confident woman. So the internal that I've had to do is to, first of all, honor myself for knowing that what I want is to be my authentic self, and I will pay whatever price is necessary because it beats the hell out of the alternative. I don't want to give in to people just like you're like, "Nope, I ain't sleeping with you." You know, no, I'm not going to pretend I'm like little Susie, blah, blah, blah. You're like, "Oh, whatever you want."
Mm-hmm.
No, this is not who I want to be, right? Becoming who I want to be and is the most important thing. in my entire life. And I think it should be for all of us. What type of woman do we want to be? And make that our trajectory. The other thing is, once we bring it all home, once we bring it inside ourselves and we go, okay, what parts of me are feeling disempowered by this, instead of revved up to go, well, I'm never putting up with that kind of crap again. And here I'm going to go out and I'm going to become very proactive, and I'm going to figure out what I am going to say when the next place goes, well, why did you leave? And I'm going to make sure that whatever I come up with supports my strengths. So I'm going to say, I'm going to play with a lot of different ways of saying it, and I'm going to find the one that feels best and strongest to me, not the one that buys me the ticket to the show or the next one so that I can stay disempowered. No, I'm going to use this as a jumping off point for my strength. So maybe I'll say, or maybe not, but maybe I'll say, well, my boss asked me to sleep with him and I have higher ethics than that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just going to say it straight out. If that doesn't feel like I'm quite brave enough to say that, maybe I can take it down a step. Well, there were problems at the company. It was not being really well managed, and I knew that I needed to move on quickly rather than get sucked down into the muck. I'm just looking, I have incredible morals, ethics, work ethics, and I figured I better move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of which would be true.
Yeah. And these are really, really great examples and suggestions for somebody who has been through this, I think, because I think
Yeah.
it is something that I know I was embarrassed, and I didn't talk about it for years.
Right.
And I thought it was my fault. I literally did. I thought I did something wrong,
I
and
know.
I didn't tell anybody. So you're right. When something like that happens to you, there should be a really good way to talk about it and express it that is going to be okay in an interview, where it's going to, it's going to put you in a good situation to get that next job. So yeah, that's really good for, for anybody watching this who's been in that situation. Those are amazing suggestions. So that's great. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's something that we've been programmed to believe on a very, very, I want to say global, but it's our globalness. It's our complete, mental, emotional, attitudinal, psychological, physical way. We've been taught, and we have learned it out of a need to survive,
Mm-hmm.
and not knowing that there's an alternative. We have learned basically to make it our fault, to dumb ourselves down, to be the good girl, which is why my business is called the Goodbye Good Girl Project, because
Yeah.
enough of that crap.
Yeah.
Like, let's be done. And there are lots and lots more women coming out and doing work in different areas for this, to help women go, wait a second, this is bullshit. This is not reality. This is some idea. Now, I was talking about this on my podcast the other day, about when the words "we the people" were penned back in the day in the 1700s. We the people literally meant white men in power.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it meant. People of color, women, we were useful, supportive,
Yeah.
but we were not part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that has continued on through these hundreds and hundreds of years. And so we have the opportunity now to challenge ourselves. And the internal thing is to find what we're already good at. What are we already doing that is badass? Like, it is badass that you said to this man, no, I think not. And that he came to you again because he's pathetic. And you said, no, honey, that is amazing. Because not everybody will say no, because the fear of being without a job, if you really, really need one,
Mm-hmm.
can make us do things that we later go, oh God, I wish I hadn't done that. Then we have to bring in the strength of going, look, I understand why. And I have to let go of the blame because I'm no longer that woman.
Mm-hmm.
I've
That's so great.
grown. I've
Yeah.
grown and I keep growing. Every day I'm learning more and more about where I can put my strength and how I can invite my strength forward verbally, attitudinally. Listen, there was one time I was talking to some people and I thought maybe they were just two people. I was standing, they were sitting, and I was trying to, I don't know, emotionally reach them, make them feel like I understood them. And at a certain point, I realized I was bent over. My legs were crossed like this. I was like all scrunched up and bent. I'm like, and I realized, what are you doing, Lori? You are in the most disempowered physical stance
Yeah.
I've ever seen you in. Like, what is going on? They can hear you if you stand up. And so very slowly, and it took courage. Anytime you come out of your unconsciousness and go, I'm going to try something different, you might shake a little, but frickin' do it anyway. That's
Right.
not the growth activist. It's like you don't want to
Yeah.
stay small. So I very slowly uncorked myself, let my hands fall, stood up, because my fear was, oh, they're going to look at me doing that. They're going to think I'm weird. I'm like, screw it. Screw it. I can't keep doing this.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of why I created the No Like Trust survey too. And it's really interesting because I never found the No Like Trust survey to be disempowering. I find it to be very empowering. And
Perfect.
any responses that I've ever seen come back from it,
Hmm.
they're so very cool because we're all moving so fast. We don't tell each other even the really good things because we're moving so
Hmm.
fast. So, no like trust is this opportunity for somebody to very quickly say something that they didn't get to say after the meeting or, between appointments or, hey, we had a great lunch. I'm leaving, you're leaving. And, things that we just don't say to each other. And when I've looked back at the comments, they have been things that like made the little hairs stand up on my, it's just like they gave me goosebumps to
Mm.
see. And everything that I have ever gotten out of it was very empowering. And how I think about the No Like Trust survey is that it does help you to be the best version of yourself because it just reiterates, here, these things that you're doing are so amazing. Keep doing these
Right.
things for yourself. So it's funny because as much as the survey is, it's no like trust, but I don't, it's never been the kind of thing where it was like, uh, well, I don't like you because of some, weird thing that
Yeah.
didn't make sense. It's always been the exact opposite of just this not disempowering, but empowering. And maybe we'll get a survey back that's very disempowering, but I haven't had that happen yet. It's always been very empowering. And yeah, and just, things that people get a lot out of. So it's really interesting because I think that some people are afraid of the No Like Trust report because they don't want to get something back that's bad. But
Right.
but ultimately, I I think how it's gone so far, it's just been very empowering. The results that you get back from it. Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm so fascinated with we really have an addiction to pain and suffering. We think that that's the way we're supposed to get somewhere. And it's actually a lie. That's the toxic masculine. So we look for the pain, we expect the pain, and then when we find that really what's growthful is things like kindness, empathy, compassion, emotional intimacy. And I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about sharing, sharing what's intimate to you, like, and what's intimate to you can be sharing for the first time that what you just shared about that guy asking you to sleep with him. I'm not saying that was your first time sharing it, but had it been the first time, that would be really meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
right? That whoever you shared it with had your trust enough for you to go, I'm going to share this information with you. That's what creates quality of life. That's what creates our sense of self-confidence. When I know that I have the ability to choose who I will trust, who I will share some different levels of my secrets and my thoughts with, and when I know that I can recover when I've chosen wrong, now I have self-confidence because I don't have to just stay in one lane where I have to only be with people who agree with me. Now I know I have the strength to choose and to learn how to choose even better and how to weather storms. And my God, if there's anybody who weathers storms, it's women.
Mm-hmm.
We actually are leaders. No matter where we are leading.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I love what you said about that we are a combination of masculine and feminine.
Yep.
And I do think that men want to not embrace their feminine side. And, they try not to do that. I have a very good friend that has been working out with me. And he's a young guy. And
Yeah.
I very recently found out that his good friend, they're the same age, is making fun of him because he's working out with me. And
The dipstick.
I know,
That's not a friend.
right, exactly. And so my
Mm-mm.
my friend has said, like, well, I guess we're not going to hang out anymore. I mean, they've been friends for 20 years or more. And now he's not, and I feel bad. There's a part of me that feels bad, but at the same time, it's like, do you really want that kind of friend who's gonna say to you, don't work out, like, be a man, don't work out, you don't need to do that, I mean, like, it was such a silly argument. And I'm and what's interesting, I think, was that he could have stopped working out with me, but he said, no, I enjoy the workout, and it gets me up on a Saturday morning. And
Yeah.
I mean, we just hang out on Friday night and get drunk. That's not helping me at all. That's not good for my life. But ultimately, a lot of these guys would have picked their friend and they'd have been like, sorry, not coming to the workout. And, I think he made a really good decision. It was a hard decision, but I think he made a really good decision. And he actually said to his friend, why don't you come to the workout with me and try it? I mean,
Brilliant.
you might hate
Brilliant.
it. I mean, sure, you might say, hey, this isn't for me. I'm glad you like it, but it's not for me. But he's never
Right.
even tried it. So how could he even say it's not macho enough or whatever? How can he even say that? So,
I love that he asked his friend to do that. I mean, that really is bringing the feminine in.
Yeah.
That's lovely. That's saying, okay, I'm not going to fight you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see what you're bitching about?
Right. Yeah. I mean, all you can do is try it. If you don't like it, then don't come, but you might really like it. And it might help you to lose a couple pounds and to feel good about yourself and, to get healthy. And yeah.
Well, the leadership thing is uh, it is so immersed in don't be feminine, don't go be with women when you could be a man's man, like that kind of thing. And that's especially the deal, I think, for men in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I think it gets more brittle as men get older because their messages on the toxic masculine side are if you can't successfully get women to go to bed with you, then you are worthless. Or if you can't successfully make millions of bucks, you're not all that, and a bag of chips. And for both sexes, we've got to come out of this idea that we are only human. We're not only human. We're actually, on the spiritual side, we are actually spiritual beings having a human experience, is what's happening.
Nice.
That's the reality. And what does that mean? Like, okay, that sounds interesting, but what the hell does that mean? And what it means is the things that move you about life, The things that touch your heart, the things that make your mind open to new ideas are not physical. They're concepts, they're intuitive hits, they're moments of inspiration, they're new ways to think about things. They're people doing something for you that you didn't expect, a kindness or a sweet thing, or being thoughtful, like your friend going, well, I'm not going to desert her. I'm not doing that. That's not physical. I mean, it has a physical result of him going, I'm not leaving, but that's not what touches you. It's he cares.
Hmm.
And he cares not only about you, but about the quality of what you bring each other. I mean, that's beyond being human, beyond
Hmm.
skin, right?
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. And that's a
Mm.
really great message for anybody listening too, is we're not just human. So yeah, that's
No.
really cool. I love that. And
In
I do
fact,
think that from the no like trust perspective, from the survey perspective,
yeah,
that I had another guest on that talked about light, and he said that when you share your light, your light
yep,
gets bigger. Your light gets brighter and warmer. And
yeah,
so that no like trust is this opportunity to share your light with someone and to say, hey, here I've got feedback for you. And it connects with that spiritual side of people because it's confidential and anonymous. It's a way that you can share feedback with someone that maybe in person you felt a little awkward. Maybe in your body, in your physical body you felt awkward saying it, but that spiritual moment where you can just confidentially say something. And the goal is with this survey, and I think I've mentioned this before, that I knew a realtor, and let me tell you, I can't even remember what the feedback was because this was before No Like
mm,
Trust. But I'm not a realtor. I don't do anything with real estate. I'm not ever going to be a realtor. But let me tell you, I had this little thing that I was like, man, if I could just tell a realtor this, they'd probably make a lot of money with this idea. And so No Like Trust is like that too. It's like this opportunity to say, like, hey, I'm not a realtor, but let me tell you, I got this really cool idea that a realtor would benefit from. And actually, I had this idea for a painter, because I went to this group and I've been wanting to say this to him for a while. I love accent walls. And I will paint an accent wall in a room. It's cool to have a room that's all white, but you've got this one really pretty wall, kind of like your
yeah,
background. It's like you don't
yeah,
have that background everywhere, but you have the background right there. Well, this
mm-hmm.
painter went to this meeting. I had this opportunity to say to him, you need to start promoting accent walls because it gets you in the door.
Ooh,
It's a low commitment, right? It's like one wall, maybe like $200, $250, depending on the size of the wall. But it gets you in the door to be able to talk to somebody. It builds trust. It helps them get to know you and like you and trust you. And it's a really cool way to create that first connection with somebody. And I don't know that he's still ever done it. I don't know if he's still ever. I mean, I
yeah.
don't think he ever did take the advice. But I was like, this is such a cool thing. I mean, how many walls could you paint if you said, hey, I'm going to do these accent walls? I mean, that'd be cool to have pictures of all the accent walls that he did all over the city. It'd be really fun. So just an idea, just like an example of a thing I was able to share. I'm like, I'm never going to be a painter. I'm not going to do this myself, but it's a cool idea for him, right?
So to me, that just sounds like such a great leadership thing and a trust building thing because you're not asking anything of anybody. You're just giving without needing anything back. How could that not build trust?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Now, you don't, here's the other thing though, because we women have been socialized to give instead of to receive. We have to
Hmm.
be careful not to give everything away all the time.
Yes, so true.
We have to learn to have these boundaries. I mean, it it's I don't want it to sound like this is a big job that it's going to be hard to do and you have all these different aspects. It actually is so much easier when you embrace it as a birthing of yourself,
Hmm.
when you become curious about how could I live differently? How could I speak up a little differently? How could I treat myself a little differently? And I mean 1%. I am not talking about going out and storming the castle, to quote Princess Bride, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about really, and this is also very feminine and spiritual both. When you do something really small, but it still makes you kind of quake a little bit, but you do it and you survive it and you come out the other side and you're like, Jesus, I didn't die. You
Yeah.
know, and it could be something tiny. Like anybody else would go, what do you mean you'll die? You're just going to do X, Y, Z. You're like, well, I've never done X, Y, Z, so it feels like the frickin' Grand Canyon. So excuse me,
Yeah.
I'm scared. You know,
It's
so
awesome.
whatever it is, you just do that little 1%. You come out, you do it. You maybe do it lousy, but you frickin' did it. And the
That's
second
right.
time you do it, it won't be as lousy. And the third, fourth, and fifth times you do it, you're a frickin' rock star. And people look at you and go, how do you do that?
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, that's so true. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
back. You said do something small. You said, oh, birthing of yourself. Wow.
Ma'am.
That's really
Yes,
cool. Oh, and you
ma'am.
said giving and receiving. Yeah. I
Yep.
I I am a giving person for sure. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
is really weird, and this has happened to me a couple times here lately, that
Yeah.
I have found people who, and Lori, you're one of those people who has supported things that I've done, and it's weird for
Yeah.
me. I'm like, just like, I don't know, that's weird that I have people that are supporting me. I'm like, oh wait, why are you supporting me? This is weird. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I've been looking for these people who I can support and who support me. And if I can support somebody that I know has been in a similar situation than me, I'm like trying to
Mhm.
find these people. I mean, I'm just like, I mean, it's almost like they're, I don't want to say superheroes, but it's just like, wait a minute, there's these other souls out here who are frustrated. And I'm looking for all of these souls that are frustrated with things.
Frustrated with what?
Well,
Is there a
with the
specific
system,
thing?
with the like
Oh, yeah.
with the system, and I'm looking for these people, and I'm just like, hey, look, let's let's team up, you know, let's let's team up and work together. And in the past like month, I have found a couple of these people who I can tell are very frustrated, marginalized,
There's the word. Yeah.
marginalized, these
Right.
marginalized people who have no reason to be marginalized. And I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to support you. I'm going to help you get this done. And we're going to work together. We're going to partner. And it's been amazing. The results have been absolutely amazing. So,
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
So, yeah. So, and the giving and receiving thing, I'm just like, I need to find these people who I know there'll be like this mutual thing of just like, let's help each other. Let's support each other. And it's been great. Yeah.
That has to be the way that we are now also, by the way. I mean, just in the country because things are very, very painful right now for all of us and, for more and more of us as things
Mhm.
unfold. And um, so I started a group a Facebook group because I would like to get off of Facebook, but I can't. I can't afford to go anywhere else right now. To have the group somewhere else that's a little more private. Um, but I have a private Facebook group for people who are struggling with our times, who don't know how to find a job after 35 years of being in one job and suddenly losing their job, or people who don't know how to find housing, or people who um, want to understand what they don't understand about how to grow vegetables in your own apartment, or what we need to be a community again. We need to get off our freaking phones. And so part of it's going to be also meeting on Zoom at least once a month so we can
Nice.
literally get to know each other, because we have to get to know each other and we have to start to exercise that trust muscle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. The trust muscle.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Because we don't know what the hell we're doing, you know. Now people from my generation, we started out without phones, so we had to learn at least a certain level of communication, but we still weren't all that good at it. Hello, and then with the advent of phones, you go out to dinner and everybody's on their phone. Like it used to be, you would look at the person at the other table and go, hey, how you doing? What's your name?
Yeah.
Or you'd bring a book, or I mean, it just was a whole different vibe. It was slower. It
Yeah.
was more intimate. It was, we got to get to know who we could trust and who we couldn't trust.
Yeah.
So we have to go back to that.
Well, let me go one step further
Yes.
because I have been in rooms with people and went to talk to them and realized they had earbuds.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yes. And they're not hearing you. They're in their own little world, which it's kind of fun. I mean, music does that to you. It puts you in your own little space. But I mean, it's been weird. I'm like, I'll just walk in and be like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Da, 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 da. And I'm talking. I'm like, "Oh, they have their earbuds in. They've not heard anything I've said."
This
So,
is this is fear. This is fear.
hmm
I want to be out, but I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to be around it. I don't want to risk being seen. So women go into positions, even positions of power, and they're surrounded by men of power, and the men outnumber the women by, you know, 1,000,000 to 1. And the game seems so big that's like I either have to fight it, I have to become like adorable and like try to play that game. We have to stop all of that. We have to look at the game for what it is, which is a bunch of ideas that are really not who we are. And we have to decide, I want to create a different game. I want to play a different game.
change the
Um,
game. Yeah, for sure.
change, yeah, change the game,
Change the
100%.
game. And
And
it's a game.
it
So
is, it's just a game.
kind of, you alluded to this a little bit earlier that we think that we have to make certain moves, but it's like, wait a minute, it's a game. I don't have to make that move.
You
I
don't
can,
have to play it.
right. Yeah, I can change the game, or I can make my own move, or I can, do something that's going to surprise somebody back rather than like, oh, okay, this is the game and this is how I have to play it. So, yeah, that's true.
When I was in
I
my
like that a lot.
20s, yeah, when I was in my 20s, I was in Vermont and I was working at a very, very, very small little city newspaper. I think it was 18 pages long. And
Mhm.
there were people who'd been working on this thing for like 20 years. And there was this man I really liked him. We would laugh a lot and everything like that. But he made a comment that made me feel very uncomfortable. And I even forget what the comment was, but
Mhm.
it made me so uncomfortable that I went to his boss and I said, I'm uncomfortable, which took a lot of guts for me to do, but I did it. And next thing I know, the guy who made me uncomfortable comes to me and he's got tears in his eyes. And he's like, "Oh my God, I didn't mean anything by that. I feel so awful that you would think that I was saying anything, about, oh my God." And he was just so upset. If I'd had a little bit more savvy, I would have gone straight to him and said, that makes me really uncomfortable. But I didn't yet know that it was a game. And so I went to the person above, I went to the power structure above. We have to become the power structure. And we have to your point of coming together, we have to do it together. We have to support each other because the messages that we have practiced in our heads and the messages that are everywhere in every show we watch, every movie we watch, every bus we see go by, everything reinforces that we are powerless. And there is nothing further from the truth. There's nothing further from the truth.
That's cool. Well, I wanted to say too, I thought might be interesting because the ability to do a no like trust report and have it be anonymous, confidential. I'm wondering if maybe that feminine side will be easier for people to express because I know that I've noticed that my husband does this, that he'll come to me and he'll say, "Hey, this thing happened today at work and this is how I handled it." And
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of because we had talked about it before. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this, like, why don't you handle it like this instead? And I think, of course, my feminine side is like, hey, well, why don't you handle it this way instead? And so I'm
Yeah.
really curious if maybe a KLT survey would maybe allows people to kind of express that feminine side a little bit more than they would face to face. So just a thought. But
Well, it's a double-edged sword.
yeah,
It's a double-edged sword when you're talking about a survey. Um,
okay.
as far as who sees it,
Mm-hmm.
this is the now I don't know who gets to see the surveys on your side, on your end.
Just the person, just the like if you had a survey, you would be the only I mean me, I can see it, but basically you would be the only person that saw it. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think a feminine approach really in this kind of business situation is exactly what you're saying, that you give somebody time and space to feel, to think, to experience instead of just like there's not a set goal. They get to come into their own self. And that's awesome. I think if you want to add another layer of it, use the know, like, and trust for a next level of self-awareness of how can you come into even more um, kindness, into even more awareness, into even more self-discovery,
Yes.
right? So I think
Absolutely.
that's next level feminine as well. It's
Mhm.
not in order to meet a goal other than personal development. And personal development is what gives meaning to our lives. It really doesn't matter if you've made $15 million and screwed 15 million people, gone to bed with 50. It really doesn't matter in the end result. Because if you haven't felt like yourself, if you haven't felt fulfilled, if you haven't felt like you're serving in some way, if you haven't felt like you've been receiving so that you're giving from a full cup, none of it makes any difference. You're on your deathbed and you're like, what did I just do? What was the purpose of all of that?
Absolutely.
You gotta have the feminine. You gotta have the fulfillment.
Hmm.
Or what's the damn point?
I love
And
that.
this is coming from somebody who was absolutely frickin' broke and had to live in other people's homes for 3 years till I could get back on my feet,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? I mean, I've been afraid of money most of my life,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know?
Too, yeah.
And so now I'm not afraid of money.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Now, I mean, and when I say that, let me be more succinct about what I'm talking about. So if I had an idea about a business that I wanted to start, I'd be like, well, will it make me money? And even if I loved what it was, but will it make me money? And if it was like, I don't know, then I would back away from my passion of whatever this business was. Now I'm like, screw it. I started YouTube Live, TikTok Live, Facebook Live. I'm like, I'm out there, I'm doing my thing. I'm like, screw it. Because if you do what you love and you are aligned with it and you're not fighting yourself internally, you feel good and the money is going to follow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
The supply, I should say the supply will follow
Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's
in
good.
in some way. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for being spending this time and for being on the podcast. And I know that we could probably go on, like another hour, I feel like, because I have like
Probably.
more questions. But this is probably my longest podcast ever. So
Oh my gosh.
isn't that cool? So
That
yeah,
is
so we
cool.
can end for now, but I mean, so many really great takeaways from it. Thank you so much for that. Where can people find you?
They can find me at goodbyegoodgirl.com. Be
Nice. Okay.
careful. A lot of people don't hear it quite correctly. They think it's goodbye girl. It's not. It's
Goodbye. Good.
goodbyegoodgirl.com. Also, I'm on LinkedIn under my name, just Lori Kirstein. Um, I do want to invite anybody who is ready to step into her visibility and into her sovereignty, to set up a 30-minute free strategy session with me.
Nice.
Or,
Absolutely. Yes. And I'll put links in the podcast to that. And then,
great,
yeah, and also I'll
great.
have this podcast on LinkedIn. So that's awesome. And
Awesome.
I'm excited to stay connected with you and to keep
I know.
just helping each other and supporting each other, and whoever else we can help and support. I'm excited to do that. So thank
That's
you so much.
you are such an amazing woman. I'm just so happy to be connected. Yeah.
Yeah, I am too. I'm excited.
Thank
So
you.
much in the future, and then we'll do another podcast, and it'll be an
Yep.
update, and so that'll be great.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
yeah,
having me on.
absolutely.